Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sampson, Jim Jonas for Veterans in Politics. Today we have Laura Bueno, who will discuss the importance of surrogate mother. Surrogate mother. This is going to be a very, very informative show. Jim, you have any rants?
Just one. And I'm going to make this as quick as I can. Insurance companies are horrible. I mean, they really are. I mean, so you have something happen. You call them and they go, okay, send us all the information. And so you do. And then they go, well, actually, the way you should have handled it is X, Y, and Z. I'm like, well, but I didn't have time to do X, Y, and Z. This had to be done immediately. And they're like, okay, we understand that. Send us everything over and we'll reimburse you. Okay, so you do what they told you to do. You send everything over and then they go, oh, well, that's not enough. Then they say, well, that's not enough. Then they say, well, that's not enough. And then once you finally get everything together, how they want it done, then they go, okay, I expect a check, in 3 to 6 weeks. Meanwhile, you're already paying X amount of dollars for this insurance. They're receiving that money and then investing it and making more money off their investment. So why should we even have insurance?
You have a hard day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was my rant. That's it.
This show is brought to you by Ron Quince and Stephanie Phillips. Laura,
yes.
Tell us about you.
Oh, I was raised in Las Vegas and born and raised here.
Ah, you seen it just build up, huh?
Oh, yeah.
How come you didn't buy any land on the strip there? You probably own a casino by now.
Maybe, maybe not. It was here before, the strip was here before I was, so.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, when did you get here?
1994.
1994. Was I here already?
No,
I wasn't here yet.
1995 is
I came here in 95.
I got here in 86.
So you're like a year old when I got here?
Well, what month?
November.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was a little over
sugars, man. I'm getting old as hell. All right. Please keep going.
Yeah, born and raised here.
Okay.
Went to school here. Just kind of moved around the valley. I started off growing up. I think I was around 4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived North Las Vegas. And my parents moved to the Spring Valley area.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably when I was in 7th grade, 8th grade, they moved kind of over closer to Summerlin.
Mm-hmm.
So we just kind of slowly started migrating southwest.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, married, kids?
Not married. I do have one little boy. He's 3 years old. His name's Oliver.
Oliver.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful name.
Yeah.
So, what's your occupation?
I'm a warehouse associate at Amazon.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
So, you are a surrogate mother.
Yes, I am.
And I found that very interesting. Could you explain the process?
Well, when I first wanted to be a surrogate, I was probably just out of high school.
Well, let me stop you right there. Explain what a surrogate mother is so people could understand.
There's 2 different types. There's gestational surrogate, which is just that carries the embryo for another embryo that's not the surrogate's.
Right.
And the dad's sperm, and they just carry the 9 months.
Right.
A traditional surrogate is somebody that uses their own egg and somebody else's sperm and carries that baby for them.
Use your own egg?
No, I was gestational.
No, the other one.
Yeah.
The other one. Yeah. They use their own egg. Traditional. Yeah.
You wouldn't do that one.
No, I didn't.
then that's your kid, basically, if you did that one, right?
Yeah, because the DNA is then attached.
Yeah,
yeah. And then I felt like if I did it that route and I saw the baby born, it's going to go to a great family and everything. But then I'd be like, that's kind of like my kid. I would feel like some
Kind
sort
of?
of
That is your
respon-
kid.
Well,
Yeah.
because there's legal contracts and stuff that you go through, so it's like it's technically their kid, even though it's your embryo.
But it would be your
It
DNA.
would, yeah, my DNA.
And it probably gonna grow up looking like you, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I felt like if I went that route, I might have some sort of feeling that I would
Connection.
have to, be in this person's life a lot more than I should be. And I felt like that might be crossing a line that I wasn't sure if I was comfortable enough crossing.
So let me get the two different surrogates again.
Gestational surrogacy, which I did, and then
Gestational.
gestational.
Just stational.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that it has none of your DNA.
None of my DNA.
You're just an oven
Yes, pretty much.
and a drive-through Taco Bell, McDonald's. You just feed it.
Yes.
You feed it and keep it warm and
Keep
protect
it warm,
it. Okay.
make sure it's healthy.
And the other one is when you use your own egg
Yes.
and it's the dad's semen.
Yes.
Basically. Got it. Okay. So you're just the first one.
Gestational. Yes.
Gestational. The other one is called what again?
Traditional.
Traditional.
Mm-hmm.
That's traditional? I figured it'd be opposite back for it. So with traditional, you give up your own egg. That was traditional?
Yeah.
Is that the first surrogate, the ones that gave up their own egg?
I think it's called traditional because I believe that was like the first route that they would go
when they
with.
started the surrogate mother process.
Yes.
So how did you fall into this thing? Somebody
Well,
knocked on your door, you receive a telegram? What?
So I have people in my family and that were my teachers that weren't able to have kids.
Right.
So I was like, if I was somebody that can maybe provide that for them if they weren't able to carry kids, like that would be something really amazing. Like that would be something really cool. So I kind of looked into it.
That's humbling, by the way.
Thank you.
So, I mean, but you got to put your body through that whole, and it's also mental, right? Isn't it mental? You know, if I see a big stomach on me, I'm like, what the hell is going on? You know? Is it mental and physical as well?
A little bit, but there's a lot of stuff that you can do during pregnancy if you have a healthy pregnancy that will help you a little bit more and stay out of that negative headspace.
What do you do?
What I do is I stay working out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not really. It's just doing yoga and doing something small, but it kind of helps. Like, and you also have to think about it. You're growing a human being inside of you. You're supposed to be looking this way. Mm-hmm. So it's not, to me, it's not that odd.
So, I mean, does it take a toll on your body? I mean, you got the water build up, and you got the fatigue, and you got the hunger, and you can't go in the clubs and kick it. You know, wearing the nice size 2 dresses. You know, you got to put on a size, I don't know, 5'7", whatever it is. I mean, you're not you anymore. You know what I mean? Without Karen, you kind of.
Yeah, a lot of.
But how do you do that with the 9 months that it takes to before, and then you got to go back to the healing process again. Mm-hmm. You know, get back into the way you were before pregnancy.
Yeah.
How do you do it? It's just exhausting. I was reading up a little bit about it, and it seemed a little exhausting to me.
Yeah.
How do you?
Well, with my pregnancies, they've been really easy and very healthy, thank goodness. Mm-hmm. But with working out and doing yoga and still being able to do a good amount of things, you still kind of have that touch because I used to work out before I had kids. So it's kind of like something that's still, I'm like, I'm still able to do this at least because I'm not, can go out drinking, go out to clubs. And I've kind of fallen out of that phase as well. So it's not something that I really, miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're young.
Yeah.
You think that you're still being that phase, you know?
Yeah. No,
I didn't get out of that phase until I was like, early 40s maybe. Yeah, about that. Yeah.
Hey, so
Wow.
so to switch gears a little bit on this, because this is something that and some of the stuff that I went through, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you at all, but at the same time, these are some specific questions that people really have. So when it comes to okay, first off, why did you decide to become a surrogate mom? And then what's the attachment to the amount of money that you can make being a surrogate mom? Because I've heard upwards of $93,000 and you get paid monthly for that. Now, that might be an outlier. I'm not saying every surrogate mom makes that.
Yeah.
But so, you know, I'm someone who's been involved in politics for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So instantly, once I see stuff like this, no disrespect to you, but I'm always, where's the money grab?
Yeah.
Like, are you doing that for? I mean, what are you doing that for? Is it for the money? Is this a money making thing for you?
Or both?
No, it's
both.
It's a little bit of both,
Okay.
honestly. When I first thought about doing it, it was more because I wanted to help other people create families that couldn't.
Yeah.
And then when I found out, like, oh, you could make a good amount of money, I was like, oh, that's also a plus. I would be willing to do it for free, if like for a family member.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it has a little bit of both in it. You do get compensated pretty well for it because what can come up in pregnancies, you can become really high risk and then your life can be in danger and all that stuff. So it makes up for it.
So let me ask you this, and where does the money come from? Does it come from the individuals that want you to be a surrogate for them? Or is it kind of a combination between the insurance and them, and like contractually, how does it work as well?
I'm not too sure about the in-depth of it, but they do, what I know of, they do have a like savings account that the surrogacy company makes sure that they have that money there in order for them to be able to pay you and pay the clinics to do all these exams and whatnot.
So what exactly then does the application process look like to become a surrogate? Because it is, and I mean, I know these are hard questions, but this is stuff that like a lot of people want to know. So what does the application look like then to become a surrogate? Because obviously not everybody can. So like what type of pre-screening did you have to go through in order for you to be considered, you know, a good person that you could carry a child to term and things of that nature?
Yeah, so the way I did it, I was researching a couple of different surrogacy companies and I found one that I really liked. So then that's when I decided to go ahead and fill out the application, and they just ask you questions about yourself, what you want through the surrogacy, because you do have options. You can have the option to just carry the baby and not have contact with the parents, but just tell them like, this happened at this appointment, this happened at that appointment, just that kind of contact. And then there's also a contact where you get more familiar with the parents and you kind of sort of build this relationship, and then you become pretty much like family at the end of the day. Yeah.
Okay.
So are you've done this before?
Yes.
And how did it go for you?
It was, so you have to have had a full-term pregnancy prior to applying, which is another thing. Okay. And they just make sure that your pregnancy was healthy and there was no high-risk issues, because that's another thing as well.
So you can't just come right out the bat and not being pregnant at all.
Yeah, no, you can't.
You've had to have a test run first, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's good to know. That was one of the things I wanted to get to is like, okay, like, is there, and Steve and I go, and I'm going off base here a quick second, but I'll tie it back. Steve and I have said for years that like judges should have psychological screenings before they even take the bench.
Oh, yeah.
So the process to become a surrogate mother is like, hey, you had to have been able to carry a child to full term,
Yes.
you didn't have those complications that a lot of mothers, especially new mothers, don't even make it through the first trimester because of blood clotting issues or whatever.
Yeah.
So you had to prove that your body was able to go through the whole
and then
process
after all that, they make sure they get information from the clinic that you went to when you were pregnant and saw your monthly, weekly with your doctors, visits with your doctors. And then they also do a psych screening as well. Yeah. And they also ask if you've had a history of postpartum depression.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Because that plays a part on the unborn, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Because if you're depressed, the baby's depressed. So whatever you are, the baby is.
Yeah, there's chemicals released in your body when you're feeling a certain way. And
like cage-free eggs. Everybody wants cage-free eggs because they're happy eggs, right? Yeah. Only they go down the same way. It's like those cows and the cows. Cows that you just let roam.
Oh, free. Well, they're actually kind of considered free range. Same
free,
way.
It's a better meat because they're happy.
Yeah, they're happy. They just run around.
Okay.
They're not all penned up. They're not in feedlots and stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's why when I graduated high school and I looked into it, I wasn't able to.
Right out of high school, you looked into it?
Yes, because I wanted to help out people, create families. Wow. And I've always just had like a feeling that you get when you just help somebody. Right. And I was like, I want to feel that all the time. Let me look into this because this is something really amazing. But you had to have a previous full-term pregnancy, which I haven't had at 18. So I was like, maybe I'll look into it later. And I just went on and went to college and worked and all that. Yeah.
So does it leave you with stretch marks or anything like that you really don't want to get left behind with?
Well, I don't know. There's some people that go through puberty and they go through this growth spurt and they get stretch marks from that. So it's like, I don't know. I don't really look at it that way. Yeah, sometimes I'll be like, oh no, I'm getting a stretch mark here, but it's part of the process. Yeah. Your body's not always going to like the same.
You accept that.
Yeah.
So you've done this one time before, and walk us through how that went. I mean, from the very beginning, when you first applied till you meet the parents. I mean, the potential parents back then, and then the interactions you've had with them, if you did, and then the doctor's appointments, and then you deliver, and then you hand the baby over to, and just explain how that is, and both physically and mentally too, because I like to know.
Okay. So with my pregnancy with my son was really amazing. It didn't feel like I was pregnant. The only thing that actually made me feel pregnant was looking down and seeing my stomach. Maybe probably towards when I was like 8 months pregnant with my son, that's when I started getting those cravings and those weird smells that everybody started talking about, that, you're going to go through this when your first trimester and then you'll get used to it. But I didn't really get any of that until I was like 8 months pregnant with my son. So I was like, wow, if a pregnancy is like this, like I can do it so many times over. It wasn't bad, like everybody was saying.
She's just a baby machine.
It wasn't bad. So I was like, wow, if pregnancy is going to be like this for like the next kids that I have, like I want to do this all the time because it wasn't that hard on my body. Right. Yeah, so after that, I think probably my son was like 4 months pregnant. No, not pregnant. Sorry, 4 months born.
We got you.
And I was feeding him in bed, and my boyfriend was up on his phone, and I look over at him, and I was like, I want to do this again. And he looked at me, and he was like, what?
You crazy?
Like, we just had our son. Like, take a second, because he was thinking like our own kids, and I was like. In my head, I didn't say it, but in my head, I was like, I want to do this for another family. Yeah. Like, this is amazing.
Okay. So now on that, first off, I want to commend you for that because so you looked at it from that and and this is just what I've heard, and this is why I know it's got to be kind of challenging getting interviewed by two guys, right? Because it's like, as much as we think we know, like, we're dudes, right? Like, we don't really know what childbirth is like. We can pretend like we know. We can pull stuff up on Google all day long, but that, whatever. But the fact is that I have heard, speaking from several former mothers I know, like
former mothers,
some
former mothers.
Okay,
aren't they still mothers?
Fair enough. Okay, you got me. So anyway, but seriously though, like, there's several women that I know that just had one child and swore they're never gonna have another kid again. It was like the most horrific experience of their life. Besides the birth of their child, like, that was cool, but had horrific experiences to pregnancies, right? And then there's other women that have said, it was tough, but not really that bad. Kind of like, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but kind of like what you were saying, right? Like, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
So for you being willing to help other families out, where there's other mothers out there or potential mothers that really want to have kids, but for whatever reason can't get through the first trimester, whatever case is going on, for you being willing to do that. That's actually something that's really cool that you'd be willing to do. So what would you say then to other individuals that are like, okay, this isn't for me? Like, what has really benefited you from being a surrogate mom and trying to get other women that maybe pregnancy isn't quite as hard for them, being willing to provide that service to someone else?
Yeah, well, the first thing when people ask me about it and they ask me like, oh, do you think I can do it? I'd be like, well, did you enjoy your pregnancy? Did you have complications? Because that also plays a role in it. And if you did like pregnancy and it wasn't that bad for you either, yeah, give it a try. It might be something that you like as well. But if it's something that you never want to go through again, I don't recommend you being a surrogate, because I kind of want to say it gives a lot of women PTSD when they have a bad pregnancy and they think about going into another one. They just think like, oh, these things are going to happen to me again. And like I said, it's high risk and you can possibly die at the end of this because of complications. So it puts that in their head. And then if they already have kids, it's like you don't really want to put yourself on the line like that. So it might be for some people, it might not be for others.
So because you were walking us through the whole thing and then Jim stopped you. Could you please continue walking us through?
Where did I leave off?
I forget. Roll the tape. I forget.
I think it was when I told Matt, my boyfriend, that I wanted.
Yes. Right.
So he was like, go to sleep, think about it, blah, blah, blah. And then I went back to sleep and I thought about it and I was like, okay, this is something I want to do, but let me try to make sure that I'm 100% better, because I was just 4 months postpartum. So I was like, okay, let me sit on this a little bit more.
Well, what does that mean, 4 months postpartum?
After I had the baby.
Okay.
After I had Oliver. So I sat around and I thought about it for a while. And I think on my son's birthday, I was like, okay, I still feel really good. I definitely want to go through that again. I don't think I'm ready to have my own, but I'm willing to provide that for another family. So I told my boyfriend, like, hey, I want to have another kid. And he was like, we have a 1-year-old. And I was like, no, let me finish. I want to have another kid for another family that can't carry. And he was like, okay, yeah.
That same night?
He said, yeah. He said, yeah, but then he was like, I need to think about it first, because he didn't really know much about it, but I already knew about it.
But wouldn't sorry for interrupting, but wouldn't the male figure, your boyfriend, wouldn't he get attached as well? feeling the kick and all that stuff, and hearing the heartbeat. Might even show up with you when you're doing the ultrasound and all that. Is it? And then you have a baby at home as well. What about that baby? Wouldn't the baby be attached and mommy's pregnant?
Yeah, but while I was pregnant, I would tell my son that this isn't our baby, that we're just babysitting this baby for the other family.
It must be confusing.
It kind of was at first, but then he kind of got accustomed to it, because when he first started touching my son started touching my belly and everything, and I would tell him, I was like, this isn't our baby. This isn't our baby. We're just babysitting. And he'd be like, okay. But he was only 2 years old, so I don't think he could only process it so much. And towards the end of it, he was saying the parents' names. It's their baby. So it got to him eventually. I had to repeat it a couple of times for it.
So he met the parents?
He did, yeah.
Oh,
Matt also did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How was that interaction?
And other people in our family also met the dads, but it was kind of weird.
Weird, right? A little awkward.
Because it was I just know them through
everybody's gloating at you, and he's probably thinking in his head, the father, oh, she's got my baby.
I don't think so. It was kind of weird because I just know them through text messages and FaceTimes, and then just seeing them every once in a while through pictures and videos. So it was a little weird just seeing them in person, but it in a good way. I just wanted to hug them because I've talked to them throughout this journey, and it's
develop a rapport.
Yeah.
Are they here in Vegas?
No, they're not. Okay.
You probably don't want to be a surrogate to any families here in Vegas, right?
I would be willing to.
Really?
Yeah.
So when you gave this baby to the family, how did that feel?
It was pretty amazing. So when I delivered their baby, I had them in the room with me. Yeah.
They're in the room with you while you were delivering the baby?
Yes.
The father too?
Yes. Both of them were there. My boyfriend was there. And then all the nurses, the medical staff that was there as well. Yeah.
That's interesting.
And let me ask you just real quick, was that contractual?
That they had to be in the delivery room?
No, they didn't have to. It was something that we kind of talked about. The surrogacy company will reach out to you and be like, hey, we have potential IPs. IPs are intended parents. IPs that we think would go great with what you described you wanted in your profile. And I was like, okay, great. So they kind of do a Zoom meeting with you. It would be the surrogacy company, you, and then the IPs. And they do just a Q&A pretty much of just to see if we get along well, if we like each other and whatnot. And then they'll cut it off, and then they'll come to me and they'll be like, hey, what did you think about them? Do you like them? And I was like, I hit it off with them. I was like, yes, I love them. If they're willing to have me as a surrogate, I'm willing to do it for them. And then she's like, okay, well, I'll give you a call after I talk with them and see how they felt. So we ended our Zoom meeting, and then she went and she talked to them, and they felt the same way. So that's when we continued to do through the process. And we have a group chat with the 2 ladies from the surrogacy company, and then it's me and the parents. And then through there, we kind of would talk about what do you guys want to do? What are you willing to do? I'm willing to do this. I don't care if you guys are there or not in the labor and delivery, but if you guys aren't comfortable there, I don't expect you to be there. So, and I was also, because there's a potential of having a C-section, and there could only be one person in the room with you. And I told them, I was like, I didn't want my boyfriend to be there because it was their baby. So I was like, if one of you guys are willing to be there, I would be glad to have you in the room with me.
Okay. So, and I can tell, so I'm just, and the reason why I'm doing this is I'm not trying to, I just wanted to, because I have a lot of questions that a lot of people have. And first off, I just wanted to say, because you sound just like me. When I start to get a little nervous, I start getting at my voice a little bit. But like, just no. And I think you're doing great. I just want to, like, there's a lot of things that have been thrown at me and about this. And I never even really thought about this issue much. Right. But then other people were saying, so what about if, God forbid, something happened halfway through the pregnancy and like you couldn't carry the full term?
Yeah.
Like contractually, how would that work? And like there's a lot of, I just think there's so much legal stuff.
Yeah, there is. That
people are questioning right now. So like legally, so let's just say, okay, you guys are all good. They can be in the delivery room, except for if you need a C-section. Like, how hard is that to go through to be a surrogate and have to like literally go through all that legal stuff? Like, did you have a lawyer that explained all this to you?
Yeah, there's a contract that you go through with the surrogacy company, and then besides that, once you start going into the next steps in the surrogacy, there's a legal contract that you go with through a lawyer. Yeah.
Okay.
Do they have to know where you're at all the time?
No, they didn't.
Because you're carrying their baby, shouldn't they? I mean, you can't go on airplanes, you can't go for long drives, you can't go for jog. I mean, is there you have to eat this dietary food, you have to eat that, you have to take this medicine, you have to take this what's that?
Prenatal.
Yeah.
You
prenatal vitamins care.
You have to go to these doctor's appointments, your OBGYN. I mean, is there like in the contract, does it have it list out what you need to do, what you need to accomplish?
That is depending on the parents and what they want to do. So
what does your contract look like?
My contract is that
Nobody ever asked you that question, right?
No.
I was gonna say again. I know it's uncomfortable. You got two guys, and
you're on a talk show. Yeah. We ask all kinds of questions.
And Steve and I are like, okay, what do the lawyers say? What does the law say? And how much money is it going to cost?
Because there's two different contracts.
Hold on a second. I just want to put out a pure disclaimer. This show's been on since 2005.
Okay.
and we get a lot of crazy people, and we ask a lot of questions people think about asking, but don't have the gonads to actually ask. We do all that. So we want to make sure that when you leave out of here, people understand exactly what a surrogate mother is and what you have to go through. Mm-hmm. Because some people might want to be one, and some people might want to go get one. You never know.
Yeah. Well, in the legal contract, it will tell you if the parents want you to... Oh, no, not the legal contract. Sorry. In the surrogacy contract, it will tell you if the parents have a preference of you eating and all that, but they will have to compensate you for that.
Okay. Does when you go to carry a baby, do they say whether a nationality you want, whether if you want to have a black parent or you want to have a white parent or you want to have a Hispanic or Asian parent? Does nationality ever came up?
I don't think that ever came up. The one that did come up was if I was comfortable with carrying somebody from the LGBTQ plus community. Gotcha. Or not same-sex couple. What is it called?
Lesbian, transgender, straight.
Well, I think
cross-dresser.
You guys summed it up a bit.
Bisexual.
That's the LGBTQ plus community, or just like a male-female couple.
Oh, straight couple.
Yeah, there you go.
Does religion ever came up?
I think it did a little bit, but I don't really remember it because I'm not that religious. So it was just like probably a question that I answered and just didn't really think about it.
Do you have to keep their doctor? Could you use your doctor?
That is something in the legal contract, and they can put that in there if they want you to go to a specific doctor and all that. stuff.
And what happened if you decided to do this and you signed the contract and now you're pregnant with their kid, but you really don't like these people anymore? They really just irk you. You can't backpedal out, huh?
Well, I'm not sure if you can backpedal out because I didn't do that.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure there are steps that you'll just have to go through the surrogacy company and let them know. But I think it has to be prior to your medical screening, medication, and the transfer date.
Right. And then it might be contractual too. Like, do you have a right to terminate the pregnancy at some point? That might be.
Yeah. Well, is that in your contract? Be like, I want to get an abortion.
I don't think you can do that. I don't know. I didn't. I don't know that much detail in that one.
Okay.
But I think there is. You'll just have to contact the surrogacy company that you may be working with. They will help you out a lot, and just let them know, like, hey, maybe I don't feel as confident with these parent IPs like I wanted to be. What can I do? And I think that's where they may step a little bit more into your relationship with the IPs. And
yeah, I mean, what happens if I'm just throwing this out there as a hypothetical. What happened if you went through the contract, you signed the contract, you're pregnant with these couples, baby, and you just found out that they had kids before and they're just loser parents. I mean, they're abusers or they do drugs. What happened if you find out that type of information and knowing that you would have to hand this child over to them? Is there any type of ramification or any type of legalese in there that would make you, or that would help you not want to hand this child over to them, knowing what you know now, that there might be an abuser, or they might be a drug addict, or whatever the case might be?
Once you sign the legal contract, which pretty much state that this child is not yours and you don't intend to keep the child, so I'm pretty sure the surrogacy company does background checks and whatnot on the IPs.
Hope, right?
Yeah. So I don't know what that would be like.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Okay. So let's talk dollars. What do they pay for? Do they pay for your medical expenses? Do they pay for your eating out? I mean, do they give you a food allowance every month for you to go shopping? What does the finances look like?
They do pay for, if your health insurance doesn't cover like surrogacy or anything like that, then the parents pay for healthcare for you. Okay. And then they don't give you a food allowance unless, I believe, they specifically want you to eat.
What about clothing allowance? Because your clothes going to be
They
bigger.
give you a certain amount. Usually when you start showing, which is in your second trimester, I think it's the beginning or at the middle of your second trimester. I don't quite remember, but they give you a certain amount of money so you are able to buy clothes.
So do they pay you monthly? Do they pay you up front? And then pay you the rest once the baby is delivered? How does that look like?
So there's some things that just happen.
Does Steve Sampson get a cut? I'm like, okay.
There's some things that you only get like one full payment of, but as like your amount that you sign, okay, I'm agreeing to getting paid this amount, that you get paid monthly.
Okay. Is it beneficial for you to do that? Is it financially beneficial for you to do that? To put yourself through that whole pregnancy thing?
Well, when I first went through it, yes, because I was able to pay off my school debt. Mm-hmm. So I was able
Why would you want to do that? We got Biden that's trying to forgive that whole thing, right? Yeah. Student loan, right?
Yeah.
What'd you do that for?
Well, this was before
Biden.
That. Yeah.
Pre-Biden.
So that's what I was doing. And then I also had something that I call my college credit card. So my college credit card was all the books and school supplies that I needed to purchase while I was in school. So I was also making...
That's a show for another day.
I was also making payments to that as well.
So
So
it helped you to pay off all your student debts.
Yes.
Okay. And now you want to do it again.
Yes.
Why?
I don't.
Or are you doing it now?
I'm in the process of doing one. Yes.
On the process. So they're looking for a family for you.
No.
You found
same
a
family.
Same family wants another kid.
They want another child.
Oh wow! Look, they went right back to her. That's good. So you're gonna do this again for the same family.
Yes.
And did you have somebody talk? You should have had me talk your contract. I would have said that it has to be doubled this time.
Sure.
No, I went through the same surrogacy company.
Okay.
We just
do they get a cut? The surrogacy company?
I don't know about that.
I guarantee they do.
Of course they do.
I guarantee they do.
That's a separate contract between them.
And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, the surrogacy thing, but I guarantee, like, they're not doing it for free unless they're really dumb.
So you're doing it again for the same family.
Yes.
And why did you want to do that?
Well, the same thing kind of happened. I wanted to have another kid, and my boyfriend and I agreed, like, maybe we should wait a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, do you mind me doing it again? And he didn't mind. So I let them know, hey, I feel better from the pregnancy that we just went through. If you guys want to have another child, I'm willing to do it with you guys. Yeah.
You have a really, really good demeanor about you.
Yeah.
Calm. Have you ever get mad? I've never seen you mad. Have you?
Yeah, I have gotten mad a few times.
What'd you do when you get mad?
You don't want to know.
Is that Spanish blood just sizzles out of you?
That's calm silent.
She turns into the Hulk. Is that what happens?
I yell a lot when I get upset.
Use profanity.
Yeah.
In Spanish or English?
Both.
So what would you say to parents out there that can't have a child but has a financial means to do the surrogate? What would you say to those folks out there?
Definitely look into it, and if you're kind of scared about it, definitely reach out to a surrogacy company and they can help you along the way with that.
What do you say to the mothers that are potential mothers, or they got to be a mother first before they be part of the surrogate company, right? Because they have to go through the test. So what would you say to potential mothers out there that probably thinking about being a surrogate? What would you say to those folks?
I would say definitely give it a shot. You're not going to regret it if you do it rather than if you don't do it. Because if you don't do it, then you can, later down the line, you can be thinking, what if? But you are actually taking the steps and figuring out whether this is something you're interested in or whether you're not interested in it. And those what ifs will not be there in the future. So
what about the boyfriends and husbands that have to, they're part of this whole program, right? Mm-hmm. What do you got to say to them?
Well, it's like you can definitely be there for your partner. And if you're not 100% sure of what she is doing, definitely have faith in her. Definitely have faith in her. Be there supporting her. You don't have to get to know the family, but I'm pretty sure if you do get to know the family, they would just be like your family friend or just a friend. Yeah.
And what about the kids that have to go through this? The kids that the surrogate mother has, her own kids. Mm-hmm. What would you say to those kids?
It's definitely a process, and it might take you a while to understand what's going on, but in the long run, it's something very beautiful. Yeah. It's going to happen.
Because if I see my mother pregnant, I'm thinking I'm going to get me a sister, right, or a brother, right? Yeah, you know, I'm not thinking, oh, she's just holding this for 9 months and it's going to be given away. Yeah. But you know that's very humbling what you're doing for people that can't have kids that want to be parents.
Thank you.
You know, my hat goes off to you for doing that.
Thank you.
Because and and to your boyfriend as well, because I don't think that I could do it, because, the machismo, the ego, or whatever you want to call it.
Not you.
Not me. I don't think that I could have my wife or girlfriend pregnant for somebody else.
Yeah.
Maybe
it's not for everybody.
Yeah, it's not. Maybe if they told me, $250,000 for 9 months, maybe that might help me out a little bit. I might, wow, okay, yeah, I'll give it a shot. But you're doing it twice now, and that's amazing. That's
Thank
amazing that you do something like that, and you have the mental capability to handle. I've never seen you get mad or raise your voice, so that's. You seem like you're always like mellow, monotone, keel, even keel, like that.
Keel,
Yeah. So that's good. So, Jim, you have anything else for Ms. Bueno?
Well, before we ask you to look into the camera and give your closing statement, if you're comfortable at doing it during a closing statement, go ahead. If you're not, that's fine too. But that was my biggest concern coming into this interview was the screening process prior, because there's a lot of organizations out there, and I was never really super familiar with the surrogate thing. I did a little bit of research, but like you could tell, it was very general. But so if you wanted to, obviously this organization that you went through, I was very happy to hear, that they have some psychological screening, and you had to carry a child full term first, because that was my biggest thing I was concerned about is this just a money grab? Do we have surrogate companies out there running around?
Solar companies.
Yeah, solar companies. Because one of the things, and it's not just political, but just even private companies, right? Like that's one of the things that Steve and I have focused on in Veterans of Politics for years, culture of corruption. So obviously you're happy with the company you went through.
Yes.
Like if you want to validate them and give them a shout out in the end, that's fine too. Yeah. But that was one of the biggest things I wanted to say.
She's probably have HIPAA that she probably can't.
Right. No, and that's why I said if you can't, you can't. Yeah. But just make sure that people do their research and make sure they look at the background of these companies before they get hooked into something like that.
Is there anything, Ms. Bueno, that you want to say regarding this that we haven't covered yet?
I don't think so. I know also when you're pregnant and maybe you start feeling a certain way that you're not in the right state of mind. You can reach out to the surrogacy company that you're with, and they will provide you a therapist that can talk you through certain emotions that you may be feeling.
I'm glad you brought that up because it gave me another question. In your contract, is there certain foods that you can't consume? Is there if you take a medication, do you have to get it approved by the surrogate company? I mean, is there if you have a headache and you take some migraine, you take like Motrin or Tylenol. I mean, whatever you put in your body, if it's not food, do you have to get that approved first before you do it when you're carrying?
So surrogate or not, you can't eat specific foods when you're pregnant, and you can't take certain medications when you're pregnant. So if the doctor, your OBGYN or your midwife or whoever is taking care of you while pregnant says you are able to take that medication, I believe the surrogacy company and the parents will be...
you have to get approval first.
Not approval. No. Maybe with your OBGYN and your midwife,
You
just
have
to
one of
make
those?
sure.
A midwife?
Yes, I have a midwife. Yeah.
What does the midwife do? We didn't talk about the midwife.
Yeah, no, and I was going to ask that question right after.
What does the midwife do?
Well, I have the midwife that I go and see, that I went to go and see throughout the surrogacy. I really love her. She's amazing. And she's pretty much like a doctor, but she just takes her time with you.
Right.
It's not really a rush in, rush out.
So she comes to your house and deliver?
No, I go to her clinic.
Oh, you go to the clinic
Yeah.
and deliver?
No. I deliver at the hospital. She's
the potential parents pay for all of that hospital stay. It doesn't go on your insurance, right?
It goes, so the parents pay for an insurance that you have throughout your pregnancy, and depending on what that insurance covers is whether they cover for your hospital stay or not. And then if it doesn't, the parents, the IPs, are the ones that take that bill.
So explain exactly what the surrogate parents. No, you're the surrogate mother. Explain what the parents have to provide for you while you go through this.
They have to provide medical care for you.
Okay, so they got to carry their own insurance on you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's like risk insurance.
Okay.
And then the legal stuff they pay for. And then anything that's not covered by the health care that they provided for you, they have to pay for.
Okay. And there was another question I had for her, just escaped me.
Yeah, I'm glad that you explained the midwife thing, because I've always thought midwives actually could deliver if they needed to.
Yeah, there's kind of like two different midwives. There's ones that don't work with the hospital, and there's ones that do.
Okay.
And I got one that does work with hospital because I feel more comfortable delivering at a hospital in case of emergencies.
I know what I wanted to ask you. You know how some people they want to have their babies born in water, you know, and they got these crazy requirements. Is there any requirements like that of you? And if so, if a parent says to you, hey, you know, I want my child to be born in a bathtub in water, because it does happen. Are you willing to satisfy those requirements?
I don't think I would be able to do that. Thankfully, my IPs had faith in me, and they were like, whatever you want to do, whatever makes you feel comfortable with delivering, we agree with it. So thankfully, I was able to deliver in a hospital because I could only handle the pain for so much before I opt for epidural. Yeah.
So you were smart. So you kind of screened your IPs first, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Well, did we address all your? I mean, did we? Is there anything else that needs to be addressed regarding this topic?
That I can think of. No.
Okay.
Not that, no.
Well, you know, we really appreciate you coming out and talking to us about this. I mean, I appreciate it. I've learned so much already about this particular subject. So
no, and it's one of those things. It's very brave because you get people from all different spectrums, and that's why Steve and I kind of did the best we could, right? Kind of try to cover every angle we could, because of course you're always going to get certain outliers, you know, out there that are going to say, "Oh, this is crazy. This is too much science," or whatever, you know. But somebody that's willing to come in and answer questions, really appreciate it. And, you know, explain that process, because it's a process a lot of people don't really know much about. Yeah. So really appreciate it.
And some people are just don't understand the process. So, you know, they have all these different crazy thoughts in their minds, you know. And I mean, you have any crazy thoughts in your mind?
No, actually, when Steve sent me the text about it, I was like, man, that's a cool subject. Yeah. That's one of the things that, like, I mean,
it's not talked about.
Yeah, it isn't. Like, I've heard about it before, you know, different friends and relatives and stuff that kind of broached the subject, but never really did. So
and some people even look at it as taboo, like, oh, I want to stay away from that subject.
Yeah, and I know one specific person that feels that way.
But it shouldn't be, because, you know, I mean, our world is just changing constantly. You know, I mean, we're adapting to new things all the time, and like IA, what's that? The artificial intelligence, AI, and so
AI. We'll get Steve Jonas on here and I'll explain that whole thing to you.
So thank you so much, Ms. Bueno, for coming on. Mark is going to zoom in on you. Just it's going to be only you, and
no pressure.
No pressure, and whatever you want to say. If you want to reach out to the parents, or you want to reach out to potential surrogate mothers, or you want to reach out to both, or maybe you want to talk to the kids that are involved in this whole thing. Maybe you would just want to talk to the guys and say, hey, you know, shut up and sit down and let all these women do what they want to do, or whatever you want to do. And then if you want to give any contact, you don't have to. You might give an email address in case somebody wants to reach out to you later on. I don't know, but it's totally up to you. Whatever you want to do.
So if you're interested in it, definitely look into it. There are a lot of surrogacy companies that are out there. Definitely look into those companies. The one that I went with, US Surrogacy, is, in my opinion, the best company that there is that I've researched. Dads, definitely have faith in your lady if she wants to go through this process, and the kids, just look at it as having another cousin that your mom is carrying. But yeah, that's everything.
All right, well, again, Ms. Bueno, thank you so much for coming on the program. Jim, as always, thank you. Folks, this is a very interesting topic. We always done politics. Well, majority of the time is politics, but you never know. Surrogacy might be on a congressional floor one day.
Hey, everything. You and I both know
everything is politics. When they say, "Oh, I don't talk about politics," I'm like, "Shit, everything is politics."
Exactly.
You know, the light changes from red to green. That's politics.
Politics, yeah.
You know, but Ms. Bueno, thank you.
Thank you for having
Folks,
me.
that's Laura Bueno, and she is a surrogate mother. She had her first surrogate child, and now she's working on the second one. And we wish her the best of luck and success with this. Maybe she'll even go a third one. Who knows? This is Steve Sands and Jim Jones for Veterans in Politics. Until next time.